No matter if points are gained or points are lost, there will be much to discuss. For analysis regarding tonight's Winnipeg Jets game, here are Dave Minuk, Ezra Ginsburg, and your host, Drew Mandel. The Illegal Curve post-game show starts now.
Good evening, Winnipeg. Good evening, Manitoba. And for all of those joining us live elsewhere on the internet, good evening to you and welcome to the Illegal Curve post-game show. I am tonight's host, Dave Minuk. I'm joined by my main man, Ezzy Ginsburg.
Good evening.
We've given Drew Mandel the night off. And maybe it was a good night for Drew to take off because, as that leaves a little more chatting time for us. And he doesn't have to discuss the powerless power play, which is going to be a focal point of tonight's game as the Jets went up against those juggernaut Columbus Blue Jackets. Let me just check NHL.com standings to see where Columbus is because, the Jets who were vying for first place in the Central, they must have been going up against an equally talented juggernaut that held them to hold on. I'm scrolling down.
Keep going.
I'm still scrolling. 31st overall. They were 32nd coming into the game, but because they beat the Jets, they leapfrogged Chicago. The 31st team in the NHL, the Columbus Blue Jackets, who coming into tonight's action had a minus 70 goal differential. Minus 70. Jets, I think, were plus 22. But the Blue Jackets coming into this game were minus 70.
A few goal difference.
Well, now they're a respectable minus 68, Ezzy. So the fact is the Jets started off in a with a little bit of disappointment, especially given how they started that game and it looked like it was going to be a gangbusters night for the Winnipeg Jets in Columbus to start this 4-game road trip out east was going to be, and instead it ended up turning around for Columbus. Mostly we'll give credit to where it's due to Jonas Korpisalo, who was excellent throughout the course of this game, and the Jets were unable to solve him more than once, and as a result, they leave Columbus with a loss and start off the road trip with a little bit of a, wet fart smell, noise, Ezzy.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it was a lot of talk earlier today. Rick Bowness was asked about the power play, and, he said it's too predictable. They're not moving the puck quick enough. And, what happens? They go, well, I forget if it was 1 for 7 or we're 1 for 8, but regardless, it wasn't good.
1 for 7.
Right. So they should have scored a couple more power play goals. And you're watching that game and, I don't necessarily know that it was predictable or slow. Like Jonas Korpisalo was clearly the difference in this game. Like He was making saves right up until the end. Right. So I don't know if the Jets could have easily scored another couple power play goals, I guess, Dave, is what I'm saying here. So yeah, the first period was largely controlled by the Jets. I mean, the Blue Jackets didn't have a lot going on. They had a lot of trouble with the jet speed, similar to what we saw last game against the Kraken. So you're watching that first period, and it looked like it was going to be scoreless, but obviously Kyle Connor scores with 1.8 seconds left, right? So you're thinking, the second period it's going to open up here, and the opposite happened, right? The Blue Jackets clearly had their best period, and the game was tied going into the third period, and again it was more Jets in the third period. So it's one of those games where there's a lot of power plays, and that was the difference. And they're going to say all the right things, and they're going to say that they're going to work on it, but you're not going to have a lot of time to work on it, first of all, because you got the Devils coming up on Sunday, right? But yeah, the power play was, you just need to bury more goals there. So it's a disappointing loss. And you mentioned Columbus is now 31st, leapfrogging Chicago. It's like one of those things where the Blue Jackets fans were happy to get a win. They haven't got a lot of wins at home this year, right? But you're also kind of not happy. Not that you're, the Blue Jackets are just coming off of a win over the Leafs, right? So they can win hockey games. It's a bad game, but I mean, it's almost exactly like Rick Bowness said, right? Like these teams that are bottom 5 teams, they're unpredictable, right? As opposed to the power play, I guess, which has been predictable according to Bowness, right? So, I mean, look, give them a lot of credit. Patrick Laine was a little bit more fired up. I don't think a lot of people had, the Blue Jackets sweeping the Jets in the season series, Dave, but
yeah,
they're a pesky team, right? But yeah, the big difference tonight was clearly Korpisalo.
Yeah, and if you want to take it to the Jets, I mean, to me, the key, especially as we'll be talking about the power play throughout the course of the game recap, but the two things stood out to me. And I think number one was the Jets' commitment to overpassing. I don't know what is going on given the abilities of guys like Ehlers and Connor and Dubois and Scheifele to score, but it was like a hot potato out there. It was like overpass. It's one thing if you have a 3-1 lead and you're just trying to, set guys up, but when you're just trying to get something greasy, when you can see that you can't beat Korpisalo, that's a problem, right? Like to just overpass the way they did, it was embarrassing. And, to me, I don't know. I if I'm Rick Bowness, I would have flipped around the power play units because they had good looks, but they weren't converting. And the biggest problem, and Kevin Sawyer said something like, I don't remember exactly what he said on the broadcast. And the only issue I took with it was the biggest thing that the Jets weren't doing. Did you see anybody in front of the net? Like, what is going on? Last night, how many times did we talk about this? You get goals by screening the goaltender. Don't get me wrong. Patrick Laine's shot is phenomenal. Kyle Connor's shot is phenomenal. We saw those on the power play, and they resulted in goals. But the fact is that you can get dirty rebounds with guys in front, using those big bodies in front to take away Korpisalo's eyes, B, to kind of create that secondary rebound. We didn't see that tonight. At least I didn't. I kept watching for it, and the shots were into his stomach from 10, 15, 20 feet away, and generally he was stopping those. And if you looked, the high danger chances, I think in the second period were like 9-2, 9-1 or something like that in favor of Columbus. So it's one of those situations for me for the Jets that they got too, I think someone said it in the chat. It was one of those, you tried too hard you ran the game in the first period. You only got the one goal, but then sure enough, you're sitting there and you go, well, wait a second, maybe this is coming too easy. And sure enough, they didn't really have it in the second or in the third.
Yeah, no, there's definitely an element of that, Dave. There's an element of, looking for the pretty pass as opposed to, trying to score an ugly goal. I mean, Kyle Connor obviously had 8 shots on net, so he wasn't, listening to necessarily the critics, but there was a lot of chances. Like, I don't necessarily know if it's just that, because
yeah,
I mean, look at Scheifele hits the post. Like, it was a 1-1 game for the majority of the game, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, there's no way that you can sugarcoat it. I mean, you didn't score on 6 of your power play opportunities. You had 3 5-on-3s, and granted, the 5-on-3 in the third period, Kyle Connor took the penalty, and it was a very brief 5-on-3, but you still had 3 5-on-3s. But it was really more like 2.25 5-on-3s, right? But the fact is that the Blue Jackets were on their heels, and they had to take a lot of penalties to compensate for the fact that they were playing the majority of this game in their own zone, right? So it's a disappointing game, but sometimes you have to just shake your head and you say, the Jets were by far the best team when it comes to possession. Like you said, high danger scoring chances. Like, the Blue Jackets, give them credit. Like, they haven't had Jacob Voracek, they haven't had Zach Werenski the whole year, but you've still got Johnny Gaudreau, and you've still got Patty Laine, and Boone Jenner is a player that I know that we've liked for a really long time, the captain, right? So they've still got some good players. Kent Johnson. I mean, it's a fluky game-winning goal. I'm sorry, right? Like, the power play had come to an end, and that's a puck that David Rittich has got to stop, right, Dave? You could say that, we'll get into it in the Betway game recap, but it's a goal that you could say that, okay, he's turning around, so it's a little bit more difficult for David Rittich to predict where it's going to go, but it's a soft goal, right? I don't think anybody's going to argue with that. So, very disappointing loss. You're coming into this game with all sorts of confidence, having won 3 games in a row, but again, Joonas Korpisalo was the number 1 star in this game, and he frustrated the Jets all night long. And, they have a couple losses against the Blue Jackets. The good news is they're still only a couple points behind Dallas, same games played. And, you have to regroup and get ready for the Devils on Sunday.
Yeah. And as one of the things, that's worth noting is that the Jets really could have left it all out there, right? I mean, you don't have a practice tomorrow. They're off tomorrow, and then they're back in action for the doubleheader. Or not doubleheader, but back-to-back on Sunday, Monday against the Devils and the Rangers. And it's only going to get harder, right? Like, we were talking about this before the show began, but it's not as if it's going to get easier for the Jets. It's going to get a lot more difficult in the Timo Meier sweepstakes game on Sunday. And then the Andrew Kopp, oh wait, that doesn't work. The Andrew Kopp revenge game, maybe who can we, the Jacob Trouba, I guess, contest, although it's not really a revenge game anymore with Jacob Trouba. But it's look, you're playing 2 big boy teams, out east, and 2 teams that are firing. So you're not going to be able to have, look, at the end of the day, you have to give Korpisalo credit. The Jets possessed the puck. They had a lot of shots. There were things that they should have done that they didn't do. create screens in front. I mean, I highlighted the chat earlier, and I'm not going to lament the penalties because the truth was the penalties went both ways. But I didn't like a lot of the penalties that were called. I actually didn't like the penalties that were called both ways. I thought they
the officials were really calling everything tonight. That's
but it was ticky tack, right? Like
Yeah.
to me, it interrupted the flow of the game, and it
Right.
created a negative drag in my
Tonight's
mind.
game was almost just like one long power play.
Well, I mean, like, you know what? The one on Pierre-Luc Dubois that led to the Patrick Laine goal. I mean, what is that? There's literally two guys who have their arms, basically they're doing like ring around the rosy together. It wasn't as if it was like clear cut as to which one. I guess Pierre-Luc Dubois was slightly over top. But, and again, I'm not arguing because I think the Jets got the benefit of penalties that weren't penalties. I just think like it killed the flow of the game a little bit, especially because of course it didn't really happen until the end of that first, right? So, again, something we will talk about in the Betway game recap. So let's start, Ezzy. Let's get going. The Betway game recap is brought to you by, not surprisingly, Betway, one of the most trusted voices in sports betting, both in Canada and all around the world. Betway is the sports betting app that puts you, the customer, at the forefront. With a large selection of betting options in sports, as well as strong promotions and fair odds, what are you waiting for? Head on over to Betway and bet your way. Must be 19 years or older to play. Please play responsibly. Okay, as you remember, you always got to play responsibly. That is the key to pretty much all things in life, including hosting something called the Illegal Curve postgame show. As I look for the score recap, as I look for the score recap to make this
Let's do a shot recap.
Well,
let's recap every single shot that the Jets had.
Well, they had a lot. I mean, they had a lot to start the game. I think they had I think they had shots at the net, directed at the net. I think it was like 9-2. Shots were like 5-0 to start the first period. So the Jets can't complain, or Rick Bowness won't be upset with how they started this game, because they did come out flying, and they did come out, playing, I would say, the right way. And you're really not going to point at much in that first period and complain about it, because the Jets did everything they needed to do, right? They controlled it from a possession standpoint. They controlled it from a shots standpoint. And they controlled it from a scorer standpoint. So, when you look back at that first period, is anything jump out at you specifically, or was it just kind of the overall performance from a Jets team that wanted to get off to the right start to start off a 4-game road trip?
No, I mean, it was, anybody who watched that game could see that. I mean, it was a very skilled team playing a bad team, right? Like we talked about it. You take out Johnny Gaudreau and you take out Patrick Laine and Jack Roslovic. We should mention Roslovic. It's nice to see him doing well, right? They've got a few good players, and Kent Johnson's a good player, high draft pick, Cole Sillinger, but I mean, you compare these guys to Wheeler and Scheifele and Dubois and Ehlers, it just, they don't have the same forward depth. They don't have the defensive depth, right? Like Eric Goodbranson was having the game of his life, right? And he signed a 4-year contract.
Did he have a shorthanded breakaway chance?
Well,
maybe it wasn't shorthanded, but it was the end of the power play.
I'll be honest, I might have missed it. The early starts, like I'm giving the kids baths and putting Pinocchio on he likes to watch Pinocchio on my phone. So I might not have missed it. Hopefully my nose doesn't grow here, Dave, but me, I'm an honest guy. But the first period was what you expected, right? Like you expected the Jets to dominate the Blue Jackets, and they just didn't get a goal until late from Kyle Connor, right? And so the first period was like a 9 out of 10, I would say, from a Jets perspective.
Right.
The only thing that was preventing it from being perfect was a couple more goals. So Korpisalo was really solid, but obviously Perfetti, it just fits better with Scheifele and Wheeler. I don't see that being broken up anytime soon. We knew that he was going to be back in the top 6. Like Perfetti's not a bottom 6 guy on this team. He's just way too talented. But it just wasn't going in for them until Connor scored. So yeah, I mean, first period was great, and the beginning part of the second period, the first 5 or 6 minutes, as we talked about, the Jets were all over them. And then a power play goal really kind of changed the momentum. It did change the momentum for the Blue Jackets. All of a sudden, you haven't been playing that well, and the game's tied 1-1, right? And you're at home, and you're feeling well, and Laine was feeling it, even though, we'll get into his goal first, Dave, but, that whiff that led to the Pierre-Luc Dubois, that was one of the worst whiffs I've ever seen. I think it was Johnny Gaudreau, if I'm not mistaken, and the Blue Jackets were on the power play. Dubois got a shot off. It was a partial breakaway. It wasn't a full breakaway, but just thought that was kind of funny. That was like something I would do in rec hockey, that type of whiff on a one-timer attempt. But yeah, I mean, I don't think you're not gonna get too worked up. I don't think, and I hope Jets fans aren't gonna get too worked up about tonight's game because you played really well, and just that's the way the breaks go sometimes.
Well, Ezzy, when we go into this thing called the Betway game recap, we have to go through the goals, and it's going to take us a long time in that first period to get to that first goal. 19 minutes and 58 seconds, and probably a little less than that. It was actually about 1.6, I think, on the clock, but NHL.com doesn't go to that degree. So it was 1958 when Kyle Connor scored his 25th goal of the season. And that's 6 straight years now with Kyle Connor scoring at least 25 goals in a season. I mean, he is just Mr. Automatic. We call him Mr. Even Steven because he's got now 203 goals and 203 assists in his career. But the steal of the 2015 draft, as I like to call him, mostly from the Boston Bruins, who had those 3 picks in a row. But Kyle Connor gets his 25th. Nice pass by Blake Wheeler. And originally it looked like Josh Morrissey was going to get that assist, which would, of course, set the record for most points, by a Jets 2.0 defenseman, beating Dustin Byfuglien, who had 56 points, and Josh Morrissey would have had 57. 57, by the way, in 55 games. Fairly impressive. Although, as you and I discussed,
Heinz 57, right?
Heinz 57, Ezzy. But as you and I discussed, was it the last game? Maybe it was the Seattle game. After the Seattle game, nobody's coming close to that Phil Housley one back in the day with the Timu days, and when he had, I think, was it 79 points or something like that. Although Josh Morrissey looked for a while.
79 assists, right?
79 assists. Yeah, 79 assists. Yeah. So I
Morrissey's going to come close.
Yeah, he's going to come close.
65?
Yeah, we think he'll be in the 60-65 range for sure. So, we thought it was going to be Josh Morrissey. Turned out it was Pierre-Luc Dubois who got the secondary assist, and the Jets had a 1-0 lead heading into that second intermission I guess it was a 5-on-4 because the Blue Jacket defensive player just stepped out of the penalty box.
Yeah, it was a 5-on. It was, as you said, it was officially documented as a 5-on-4 goal, but it was really a 5-on-3 goal after Eric Goodbranson took the hooking penalty on Scheifele. So, yeah, I mean, look, they were moving the puck really well. They were clearly, I thought, looking for Connor more tonight. And Rick Bowness talked about that. If you listen to the audio, which we had on illegalcurve.com, he was talking about they wanted to get Connor open more. And by the way, I like that. The days, Dave, of the power play, trying to set one guy up. I mean, yes, if you've got an Ovechkin, a Stamkos, a Laine, one of the better shooters in the league, such as Kyle Connor, you're going to do that. But the Jets have so many other weapons. I think they've gone away from that a little bit. So they were going to Connor. And as you talked about, they're moving the puck. There's tons of room. What a quick release. Like, we've said this so many times over the last, 6 or 7 years since Kyle Connor entered the league. But, it was just a really quick release. And the fact that, it was with less than 2 seconds left was really incredible. So, they were finally rewarded after, Korpisalo made, 10 or 11 saves prior to that. But the power play looked good to me, in the second and third periods. They just weren't getting the results, right? Like, Morrissey was fantastic tonight, and he has been all year long. I thought Scheifele and Wheeler were both good on the power play, but on this particular goal, it's all about the release from Connor.
No, absolutely, Ezzy. Sorry, I'm trying to do so many different things at once. Tweet, put comments, do this. Ezzy, you now know what it's like to try and host after your hosting experience on Saturday.
Absolutely. Yeah, we got a lot going on. The thing is, we're having a nice chat, Dave, but
yes,
it's the IC chat. We have to make sure that we're including them. We have to make sure that, Fort Gary Q's getting a shout out. We got JB Brown. I can see.
JB's mad at me, but
shout out to Dom Zappia, Rob Mahoney. All the boys are in town tonight.
But JB's getting mad at me about Neil Pionk. I haven't even said anything about Neil Pionk yet. So, I mean, guys, you got to wait for the show to go through before you start getting aggressive with our takes. I haven't said anything. Let's put it this way. If I said I thought Neil Pionk was good tonight, then I can understand you guys ripping on me, but I haven't said that, nor will I say that. And I'll say probably the opposite based on some of the situations that transpired in the third period, which led to power play opportunities for the Blue Jackets. But we're not there yet. We follow a linear order here. We just finished the first period. We're into the second period. So let us get through the second period. Maybe we'll talk about Neil Pionk. Maybe we'll talk about him in the third period. Lots to discuss, folks. Lots to discuss. Let's not jump ahead. Let's not jump to conclusions here on the Illegal Curve postgame show. I am your host, Dave Manouk. He is my main man, Ezzy Ginsberg, also known as our number one analyst, even when both Drew and I are here. So let's get going into that second period, Ezzy. And like I said, in that second period, you're expecting the Jets to continue what they did in the first, quite frankly. I mean, that's what I was expecting. I don't know about you, but that's not what happened. The Blue Jackets, had had a number of opportunities, and they eventually obviously took care of business with a little guy named Patrick Laine. But, and one of the things I'm seeing in the comments when I was tweeting about the show, I saw Mike McIntyre, a friend from Winnipeg Free Press, saying that Rick Bowness wasn't happy with the discipline of his team. And again, we'll talk about that. But Pierre-Luc Dubois, at the 5-minute mark takes a penalty, the hooking penalty. Then at the 9-minute mark,
it was marginal. There's no doubt about it.
Especially the second one, especially the one against Kent Johnson. That was marginal at best.
That's the one I was talking about.
Yeah, no, I know. And that's the one I would say. And that's the one that, of course, led to the Patrick Laine goal because with Pierre-Luc Dubois in the box. But, I mean, look, like I said, I thought the Jets got marginal calls too. So we're not going to sit here and say the difference in the game. When you go 1 for 7 on your power play, you can't cry that you didn't get enough opportunities or the other team got an unfair advantage.
Well, I might be wrong here, but, just watching this game and the amount of penalties that were called for both teams, it was just one of those games, right? Like those penalties that are the quote unquote gray area. I hate to say that because we always use the gray area, words when we're talking about goalie interference, but really they were calling it both ways. They really were. And I'll admit, I wasn't watching the full game in real time. I had to PVR the couple periods, as I have to do with these early starts, Dave.
Yeah.
But so, like, to me, I didn't think the officiating was too bad. And like you said, you got 7 power plays. Anytime, any team in the NHL or the AHL or any league, when you get 7 power plays, you think you're going to convert on at least a couple, if not 3 or 4, right? So, they don't have anybody to blame but themselves for not burying them. And I really do think that the way the power play was moving, the way they were moving the puck, like we talked about Morrissey, we talked about Connor, he had 8 shots on net tonight. Like it really just wasn't that. Korpisalo was really good. And, but they've got to figure this out because the power play has been something that's been up and down all year. The penalty kill has been top 5 in the league for the majority of the season, if not the whole season, right? So the power play, they have to find ways. And usually it's getting the greasy goals where, a guy like Morrissey or a guy like Pionk is shooting the puck and you're tipping the puck through, layers, as Kevin Sawyer likes to say, right? So
yeah,
they're going to have to, find ways and just get it done because you're facing a good Devils team. And we talked about you got the Rangers and the Islanders. Like they're going to have to play better than they played tonight to beat those teams.
Well, and again, it comes down to opportunities, right? And Columbus was taking advantage of those opportunities. And first of all, let's welcome everybody to the Illegal Curve post-game show, brought to you by our friends at Betway. And make sure you smash that like button. You might be mad at the Jets. You might be disappointed at the Jets, but Ezzy and I are spending our evening with you. So don't be disappointed with Ezzy and I. And you should be smashing that like button. You can be disappointed in Drew, who's not choosing to spend his evening with you. But don't be disappointed in us. So please smash that like button.
We have to give Drew credit, though. He is at least at one of our sponsors. He's at Rumors tonight.
That is true. He's telling some jokes. He's performing actually at Rumors. He's having.
If you're going to Rumors tonight, make sure you bring some eggs and egg.
Yeah, I was gonna say entry. Bring some eggs, some apples, whatever you got, bananas, ripe fruit, tomatoes. Throw it right at Mindell. But he doesn't even have to be telling jokes. Like just when you see him like walking through the crowd, just start throwing it at him.
Or just wherever you see Drew. He doesn't even have to be at Rumors. He could be at the grocery store.
No.
Just
see him anywhere you see him.
At him.
See him when he's walking around in his fancy tuxedo, with his fancy tuxedo airs, his millions of dollars. Just start throwing things at him. Eat the rich, folks. Eat the rich.
For the record, Drew does not live in Tuxedo, but he grew up in Tuxedo.
Yeah.
So he has to deal with all those jokes that we throw his way.
Once you have the stink of Tuxedo.
You didn't grow up on the mean streets of River Heights like us, Dave.
Well, I didn't grow up.
Even though you grew up north.
I was in the North Ender. Please don't give me the stink of the South End. Anyways, we're digressing. It's a little early in the show, Ezzy, for us to already be digressing. So with Pierre-Luc Dubois in the penalty box, what ends up happening? Well, a little guy named Patrick Laine, who can score a goal if he's given a chance. And it looked like the Jets were going to get this puck out of the zone, but they, of course, don't clear. And as a result, he gets that puck back. He gets some time and space. And it looked like, how many times have we seen Patrick Laine score that goal, Ezzy? I mean, I 20, 30, 40 times at least. So Patrick Laine, when he has that kind of time and space, he makes you look silly. And that's what he did. And he scored the goal to tie the game on the power play.
The thing to me that was so fascinating, first off, Laine's shot looks as good as ever. right?
Yeah.
And he's missed some games tonight. He's, pardon me, this season. I think he's missed something like 12 games, 15 games, something like that, right? But
Yep.
what was fascinating to me on this goal is before he scored the goal to tie the game, he had a nice one-timer slapper that Riddick
Yeah.
stopped.
Right.
And so what he does is he fakes that he's going to one-time the slapper. He stops it, and then it's more of a, I don't know if you would call it a snapshot, Dave. I would call it a snapshot.
Yeah. That seems
Snapshot
right.
or a wrist shot. It wasn't a slap shot, right?
Yeah.
And he puts it top corner. So it was interesting to me that kind of, to me, threw Riddick off a little bit, just
Yeah.
the timing and everything.
Yeah.
Because he missed previously on the one-timer. But, it's just great to watch him in that world-class shot. Like, he still has the ability, and he's not having a bad year. Like, people kind of look at, are looking at Columbus way down the standings. He's got 33 points in 39 games or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So he's not having a bad year. Like, his goal scoring is maybe a little bit off the pace that you would expect.
Right.
But what was that? His 13th goal of the year?
15th
goal, right? So he's easily going to score 20 as long as he remains healthy. He might even get close to 25. So for most guys, that's a really good season. But for Patrik Laine, you're always expecting like minimum 35 to 40, right? So just wanted to throw that in there that, he had a one-timer. And then we talked about it on the next power play that Columbus had. He whiffed, and that led to a partial PLD breakaway, right?
Right.
So, I mean, Laine's back in the lineup now. He's been in and out of the lineup a couple times, but, nice to see him doing well on a team that's obviously, not going to the playoffs this year. But, yeah, there was a little internal competition there, right? Between, I guess it's not internal, but in the game, I meant, between Laine and Dubois, right? And Roslovic, I think, is always the forgotten guy in that trade, right? Like,
Yeah.
Roslovic has played the best hockey of his career. And, it's probably no coincidence that you've got Pascal Vincent there behind the bench, who obviously coached him with the Moose, right? So I thought Roslovic was good in this game as well. And just good to see those guys, getting the top 6 minutes for the Blue Jackets.
Well, and just, MBHA Ball Hockey said something about winning the trade, but I promised in the pregame that I would not, to the folks who were there, said, please don't get involved in a win the trade sort of thing. And the truth is, there's a couple of reasons why nobody can even get close to talking about that yet. Number one, because it takes
Danny
years
Zhilkin.
for this. Well, it's funny, as I tweeted that, I said, first of all, you have to talk about Danny Zhilkin because the 2022 third rounder, you don't know what he's going to turn into. And so, first of all, he looks like he's doing well in the OHL.
He's a good player. Yeah.
And so you've got a player like him who's you have to watch how he develops. And then you also have to see what happens with Pierre-Luc Dubois. Does he sign long-term with the Jets? Do they turn him into something else? So, I mean, there's a lot of factors.
There's no winner right now. There's no winner.
There's no winner.
You can't add up the points. I mean, first off, this is fun water cooler discussion.
Right.
Or photocopier discussion, whatever you call it. But you can't just add up the points or say that the team that has the best player won the trade. Because
if you do that, then technically Columbus wins because they've got, I think it's about 230 to about 150.
Well, exactly. But you're talking about 2 players versus 1, right?
Yeah,
but if you're talking about the best player, Pierre-Luc Dubois is the best player. I'm sorry, I don't care what anybody says. The best overall player now.
Yeah, you're right.
Is Pierre-Luc Dubois. I mean, it's just not, I don't even think it's close, to be honest with you, out of those 3, right? But you're right. Danny Zhilkin hasn't played at all in the NHL, and it's just too early. It's only been a couple years since the trade. I mean, so most trades, you can't really predict a winner when you're talking about, Laine and Dubois, being, what are they, 25 years old, Dave? They were 2016 draft picks, so 7 years ago, right? So they're 25 years old. So we're not going to know who really won this trade, until 2025 or 2026,
which is why
right?
We are not doing that until we actually, guys, and this is breaking news. We're doing a show in February of 2026 called Who Won the Trade? And it's going to be a live show.
And we're going to crown Pierre-Luc Dubois live on air. We're going to present him with
his Montreal Canadiens jersey.
Yeah, exactly. He'll be in Montreal at that point, but no, we're kidding. But not kidding. But we're going to actually have something made that's like similar to like when the $1 Million Man went to that jewelry shop in New York. I think it was New York, and he got that custom $1 million belt. We'll make him like $1 million crown. But yeah, I mean, look, it's going to be a fun discussion for many years to come. And I think it doesn't hurt that the Jets are doing, much better, second place in the Central versus the 31st in the NHL Columbus Blue Jackets. But Laine's doing well, Roslovic's doing well, and obviously PLD's having a career year. So I think everybody's doing well.
And I think people know in the chat are having fun with it, and they know we're enjoying this chat because this is just all part of the fun and the inanity that comes with coming on the Illegal Curve postgame show or the Illegal Curve Saturday show. But we don't want to piss off Bricktop, who says, who cares about the trade? So let's move on, Ezzy, and let's talk about the rest of the second period, because look, it wasn't as if with that goal, the game suddenly ended and suddenly it was all Columbus. The Jets had a 5-on-3. They didn't take advantage of the 5-on-3, but the Jets still had a 5-on-3. And we've talked about it. Like I said, and it's been the focal point. And Brad Lauer, obviously, he's on the coaching IR. They've got Eric Dubois, our friend Daniel Fink, the play-by-play voice of the Moose, actually pointed out that he said, well, look how much Moose coaching staff is currently in the building right now with, Pascal Vincent on the Columbus bench, Eric Dubois up eye in the sky, Marty Johnston on the bench. So a lot of the Moose. And
where was Keith McCambridge, Dave?
Keith McCambridge. Well, he's more of an ice cap than a Moose, but he was a Moose for the first season, for the inaugural season. That's a good point, Ezzy. I think he was with Hartford with the Wolfpack.
I was going to say, I think he's still coaching in the
I think he's still coaching with the Hartford Wolfpack. A really nice guy, actually, Keith McCambridge. But anyways, so so I mean, like it's and of course with all the Moose players that have graduated and played, for the Jets, and of course Jack Rosberg for the Blue Jackets. But anyways, the point is the Jets had an opportunity, right? 5-on-3, and you can't. Scotty Arbilic, our friend from the Winnipeg Sun, said if the Jets lose this game, it's going to be these 5-on-3s, the inability to capitalize. And Rick Bowness has been asked about it. You can go and look in the pregame report or in the practice reports that are on a little site called illegalcurve.com, because the focal point of the conversation has been the power play. And it's just, and again, to me, it's funny because Rick Bowness said it's too predictable. Well, it is too predictable. There's too much passing, and it's just there's nobody in front of the net. They're not creating that screen. So
I think there was a lack of traffic, Dave, but I still think like they had the Blue Jackets on their heels for like especially the number one unit. And I agree. Like, I can't believe we're having this discussion in February 2023 about Ehlers. Ehlers has got to be on the top power play unit.
Yeah,
and I don't want to hear this left shot, right shot BS.
Well, that's just to be clear, that is the way Rick Bowness has framed it. He said, look, he says Scheifele and Ehlers both want to be in the same spot, can't both be in the same spot. Therefore,
then find him a new spot. Like
well, first of all, so go ahead.
No, we've talked about this before. Like, you have first off, the best power plays in the NHL, you have guys switching positions as like power plays are fluid. It's not like, ice hockey for the original Nintendo where, it's not like the old school 2 defensemen on the point. And you know what I mean? Like, we've talked about this so many times. Most teams don't have more than 1 defenseman on their power play. It's almost now weird to see 2 defensemen on a power play, right, Dave? Like,
right.
5 or 6 years ago, you wouldn't
except for the Moose, who actually used 3 Heinola, Gavanke, and Chisholm on the 4-on-3. Well, and for the record, they scored. But anyways.
Well, yeah, and obviously I'm being like tongue in cheek, right? Like,
no, you're right. You're right. I'm just saying, like,
most teams use 4 forwards, right?
No,
it's not 5 forwards.
You're absolutely right. I just thought it was funny because not only do most teams do that, but then the Moose did the opposite and use 3 defensemen.
Right, and
when
you have
3 defensemen who are that fluid, it makes sense.
Right. So I agree with what you're saying. There's got to be a little bit more traffic. But I also just think it wasn't going in. Like you're talking about the 5-on-3 in the second period, and we'll get into the next goal here in the third period. But Scheifele's chance stands out to me. Morrissey cross. Like obviously, Scheifele and Connor are the 2 main guys on the top power play unit that you're looking for. And Scheifele had an incredible one-timer that Korpisalo just stoned him, right? And like you would have thought that puck goes in every time. So that chance stands out to me as a grade A chance, and it wasn't going in for them tonight. So I agree with you to a certain extent.
Yeah.
But the power play was buzzing, like puck possession, movement, everything like that. But there's no doubt that, some of those just simple point shot tip goals, that aren't sexy and that aren't going to make the highlight reels. Those are the types of goals that the Jets were scoring, back in, early December, mid-December, that they're just not scoring anymore. So I think they'll figure it out, and they're going to have to figure it out because, as we talked about, the road trip's only getting harder after this game.
Well, and the one thing I was going to say, the other point I would have made was 1 was it was overpassing. 2, I didn't like the lack of screen. And 3, and maybe this is describing the power play more in the third period than the second period, it was slow. They just, especially because the first power play unit was taking the lion's share of time, but they were slow. They weren't moving with any pace. And as a result, like Columbus was stopping them in the neutral zone. They weren't even getting into the Columbus end to really set up. I thought that was more towards the third edge, but it's one of those situations where you're looking for the Jets to be able to do something a little bit different. And, it's one of those things, right? Are you going to keep throwing it out and hope that it works? And obviously that's what they tried, and that's what didn't result in a goal. So it ends the second period, 1-1 after 40 minutes. The Jets obviously took that last penalty for Dylan DeMello, but it resulted in nothing. So that was how the second period ended. And then heading to the third, where
just 1 second here, just sticking with the power play.
Yeah.
And I know there's been a lot of, talk in the IC chat here about this. We talked about 7 power plays. The Jets go 1 for 7 tonight, but there's no reason, in my opinion, that Nikolai Ehlers should have 2 minutes and 11 seconds of power play time. And, you see Connor at 6:57, Dubois at 6:53, Scheifele at 6:55. Perfetti was on the second unit as well. Like, you got to have Ehlers out there more on the power play. I don't know if it's every time.
Read the quote. Read what I just put up from Phyllis. Ehlers is our 78% clean entry guy, tops on the team, and he's sitting on power plays.
And
come on,
Phyllis is right there.
Phyllis is exasperated right now.
No, but Phyllis is 100% right, not 78% right. She's 100% right. But it's not just the zone entries. He's the one of the fastest players and one of the most skilled players on the team. Period. Right. Full stop. So he's got to get more time there. And again, the Blue Jackets are a crappy team that the Jets aren't going to play again this year. So they're obviously going to flush this game and move on. But we're talking about, the game against the Devils, the game against the Rangers. They've got the Islanders coming up. I think they have to make those adjustments. It just doesn't make any sense anymore why Ehlers is being restricted.
Well, I mean, I absolutely agree with you, Ez. And so we moved to the third period. And it was, again, a penalty-filled period. Sean Kuraly, he takes a hooking penalty against Blake Wheeler, just under 2 minutes in. Then Gavin Bayreuther, he takes a delay of game. By the way,
that was one of Wheeler's best games that I've seen in a while. I don't know if it was just me, but I thought he was really good tonight. He takes a lot of criticism, and he's obviously having a good year, but I thought he was just on the whole game. Like, he was noticeable both at even strength and on the power play.
Well, I wasn't going to give Wheeler credit on this play, as I was going to give David Rittich credit, because he saw from his end that puck was fired all the way. Your least favorite penalty in the rule book, as the delay of game was called, but credit Rittich because he saw it coming from like a mile away or 200 feet away. And the Jets, again, 5-on-3, but nothing doing with that 5-on-3. And then, of course, the goon, Kyle Connor, he ends that early. He takes a hooking penalty. I mean, how many penalties does Kyle Connor have this year? It's kind of crazy to think that he's got as many as he does. And then this is the one that kills him, right? The Neil Pionk tripping penalty. I mean, look, here's one instance where Blake Wheeler made a bit of a mistake on the play, I thought, and then Pionk overhandles the puck. And it's the play that kills whenever you're watching a game and you're watching a team and you're thinking to yourself, you have control, you don't have any pressure, and then somehow you create pressure on yourself. And Neil Pionk does that without getting rid of the puck clean, and he loses the puck, forced to take a penalty, and now he's sitting in the box. And, the momentum that you might have had is now gone because you're sitting in the box for tripping. And
what happened? I thought I was muted there, by the way. There was a little burp. Sorry, I got a little Diet Coke going here.
A little Diet Coke burp or just a little burp?
Well, anytime I have to burp, I make sure I'm muted, but I just looked down and realized that I wasn't muted. So I apologize, folks, for that burp.
Ezzy, you're a classy guy, and that's why you bring that element to the show. But the point is, so I didn't think Neil Pionk played a good game. I think that Neil Pionk I'm convinced that something is off about Neil Pionk. If you just watch him, he just doesn't seem to be skating the way he normally does. And I know
you can also see it in his body language. Can you not?
I honestly,
doesn't look like a guy who's necessarily, having fun. It looks like to me, and I might.
I think I'm not
a guy that speculates with that type of stuff.
Yeah.
But Pionk is a guy that I know that's very well liked amongst his teammates, and he's a guy that blocks shots. He's physical. He really does it all. So I'm with you. I'm not sure what it is because I think everybody's speculating at this point. But he's just not the same defenseman that he was. Forget about, when he first came over from the Rangers. He's not the same defenseman that he was earlier in the season. So I don't know how they manage that. And again, I'm not saying that they should trade Neil Pionk. I think that's ridiculous. They signed him to an extension, right? So I don't think that he's going anywhere. But it's just, to me, the penalty. It's the Kent Johnson's goal is not on the power play because it ended. But just in general, we're not just talking about that play. I'm just talking about in general his play. Because I don't think he's the worst player on the ice, but he's just not the defenseman that we've been accustomed to watching.
Yeah, exactly. And again, like I said, to me, it looks like he just doesn't have that range of motion that we're used to seeing, that level of physicality we're used to seeing. And you see it here and there, but something just doesn't seem right. And again, like I said, you can only take these guys at their word that everything is fine. But, and look, guys don't want to come out of the lineup. Guys want to play, but I don't know. It doesn't
seem that the break helped him, right? Like the Jets won their first couple games after the break, Dave, but you thought with that long break, if he was dealing with, a groin injury, lower body, whatever he was dealing with, you would have thought that he'd come back refreshed and everything like that. But it doesn't appear to be that, so far, but we'll have to see here. But, you wonder if the right side, I've said that, to you, and I've said that on the show, to me, the right side is more of an issue to me than the left side, but we'll see what happens.
No, there's no question about that. But, and that's what we talk about in terms of depth and, when you're talking about augmenting, but we'll do that closer to March 3rd. Certainly not on the Illegal Curve post-game show, which is what we're doing right now as the Illegal Curve post-game show, brought to you by our friends at Betway. It's amazing. It wasn't a high scoring game, but the recap is taking a while because there were so many penalties, Ezzy, that we're dissecting each and every one. We're giving you the minutia of every single penalty that was taken.
I have that trademark, by the way.
I do. I know. I
don't know if I came up with that before you, but
no, it's all yours. You get a $5 bill for that one. So look, I mean, you're right. And so right after the Neil Pionk, 10 seconds, I think it was after the power play ended for the Columbus Blue Jackets, Ken Johnson, who knows a thing or two about scoring big goals. I wouldn't call that necessarily a big goal, but it was what turned out to be a game winning goal. He takes the puck and, hey, here's a crazy notion. He shot the puck at the net. And it was a no-look shot. Like I got to give him credit because David Rittich was not expecting that shot, and that beat him through. I think just a little in between the arm, the arm and his shoulder pad, not shoulder pad, sorry, his body. But and he beats him clean. And people don't like the goal. And David Rittich, I thought, played a pretty good game. We weren't sure, of course, with Connor Hellebuyck going on the trip, if he would be ready to go or not. And as you had said, you had thought that Rittich would have had this game regardless, whether Connor Hellebuyck had played the Seattle game. I think the last time we spoke about this, and yet he played a pretty good game, but it's an unfortunate goal. It's a goal you don't like. But you got to give Ken Johnson credit because it took some thought process, right? He knew that nobody was thinking he was shooting. He shoots and he scores.
Yeah, and I don't know if it hits anybody. Originally, that's what I thought, and I thought a lot of people might have thought that. But to me, what happens on this goal, because Kent Johnson had tried a shot right before that, and it was Dylan DeMello who came out, and he was kind of dipsy doodling around Dylan DeMello, and then DeMello backed off, and it was Cole Sillinger who was tied up, or not tied up, but it was DeMello and Sillinger at the faceoff circle. And to me, what happened there is Rittich just got screened.
Yeah,
Sillinger's there, and I've watched it a few times now. Because it's a long shot, but I don't know if he saw it, and it kind of, his slow reaction time, I think, makes sense there. But anyways, that's what I saw originally on when I was watching, that it maybe went off of a skate and changed direction, but then you watch the replay, and I think Sillinger there, and there's another player, another Jet, it was DeMello, and I think there might have been another Blue Jacket there. I just think Rittich was screened and didn't see it. So it's a fluky goal, but the Blue Jackets were pressing on that power play. They were moving the puck pretty well. We talked about, Gaudreau, Lyonnais. Kent Johnson's a really good player. Speaking of University of Michigan, I believe he went there, Dave, if I'm not mistaken. So
you're right.
Fluky goal, but that's what happens sometimes. Like you said, sometimes you just put the puck on the net and the goalie screened and it goes in there. But that was clearly, a massive goal for the Blue Jackets, even though you got the feeling that the Jets were going to come back and tie this game, which they came close. Scheifele hit the post there late in the third period. But give the Blue Jackets credit. I don't know if their fans want them to win any games, but they pulled out a big win against a team that's second in the Central, and they have 4 points against the Jets this year, so can't take anything away from CBJ.
You cannot, and so that's how we'll almost conclude, because I'm not going to ask you to analyze an empty netter, Ezzy. We always laugh at Drew when he brings it up, and we're like, "Are you expecting us to analyze it?" But anyway,
I'll say one thing about Boone Jenner, because
first of all, it's the best. He's got the best hockey name. Best hockey name.
I mean, you name your kid Boone, he's going to be a pro hockey player or a pro football
Jenner
player.
Just sounds like he's ready to crush someone into the boards. I mean, that's just what it is.
Exactly. And, he's been doing that he's played his entire career with CBJ. He's a great player. That was a hard-working empty net goal. I forget who the Jet was that he was fighting off there. It looked like he might go to Lyonnais, because Lyonnais tried a few seconds earlier to score, and then it went back for an icing. But Boone Jenner worked hard for that empty net goal. So look, the Jets were pressing. They almost tied it up. And again, I think with this game, you flush it down the toilet and you move on because you're going to face a good Devils team on Sunday.
Well, as Spencer just said, more like Boom Jenner. But in that instance, nice pass
like
by
it,
Patrick
Spency.
Laine. Very unselfish.
Was Spency with us on Valentine's Day? I feel like Spency wasn't in the chat. Could be wrong about that, though.
I don't know. There was so much going on. There was so much icy love in the air that we...
Spencer, will you be my Valentine?
Do you choose him? That's the question, Ezzy. That is the question. Anyways, that is the Betway game recap, which has been brought to you, not surprisingly, by our friends at Betway. It's simple, fun, and safe to bet with Betway. So head on over to Betway and bet your way. Must be 19 years or older to play. Please play responsibly. Well, hopefully everyone in the chat is having a good night so far. You're listening to the Illegal Curve post-game show while we go to commercial break eventually. I wanted to say to you, remember, if I've sent you a Facebook invite to like our IC on Facebook, you should accept that invite and join us. You know, that Dustin Bufflin thing, Ezzy, that we posted, it went viral. Lots of invites out there. So come join us on Facebook. Come to illegalcurve.com. Go on our Illegal Curve Instagram.
And you get points for the contest. That's what Dave's trying to say here. You get points for the contest.
Well, people are going to be upset because I haven't even done the contest. I haven't done the unique word. I totally forgot. I meant to do it today. I haven't even done the unique word. I haven't even picked a winner for today. I'll see if I can do that during the break.
Just go with canon. That's
usually Ezzy and I are chatting, but because I have 2.5 minutes to do this, let's see if I can do it in 2.5 minutes. Okay, boys and girls? So you stay tuned while we watch our fun commercials, and we'll be right back after these words.
Jerry Seinfeld, Chris Rock, Jon Stewart, Dennis Miller, Brad Garrett, the biggest acts and all the up-and-comers. They've all made their mark at Rumors Comedy Club, North America's longest-running independent comedy club. Rumors has kept Winnipeg laughing for over 25 years. When was the last time you laughed out loud? Make it a great night out with friends or book your office or birthday party, even a fundraising event at Rumors. Get all the details and dates on upcoming shows at rumorscomedyclub.com.
He winds up. Oh, looks like Ezzy took that one right in the choppers.
A blistering fast puck hurts like HE double hockey sticks. That's why I let the pros at Linden Market Dental Center turn my yow into
wow.
Get your brilliant smile back with state-of-the-art restorative and cosmetic dentistry from real pros.
And remember, always wear a mouth guard.
Now that's solid on ice advice. Learn more at lindenmarketdentalcenter.com. Creating smiles for life.
Whoa, Ezzy, everything okay? You look stressed.
Of course I'm stressed. We're moving, the house is upside down, the kids failed miserably at packing the fine china, and my life is in chaos. Chaos!
Yes, that does sound like a problem.
What am I going to do?
Ezzy, relax. Rolly's Transfer Moving and Storage is the answer. With 60 years of experience in moving Manitobans and a track record of exemplary customer service, one call to Rolly's and your stress is gone. No job is too big or too small. Just visit Rollies.com and they will take it from there.
Thanks, Dave, and thank you, Rolly's Transfer Moving and Storage, online at Rollies.com.
Dave, my man, why are you in the car already? It's hours until game time.
Drew, it's because I'm stressed out right now, driving around downtown Winnipeg, looking for a parking spot, and I'm not finding one. I've lost Ginsburg. I don't even know where that guy is right now.
Dave, haven't I taught you anything? Do what I do. Pre-book your entire month's worth of game day parking with the Grid Park app. It's super easy to use and saves me both time and stress.
Well, Drew, I'm not independently wealthy like you are. So I'm sorry that I don't have millions of dollars to pre-book my parking month in advance. What's that going to cost you? $25?
How about $5?
Come on, $5? No way.
$5. I'm not telling you a lie. And our listeners can get a free park with the new special promo code Illegal Curve. Guess what? There's more.
There's more, Drew. You're lying to me. What more could there be?
Grid Park now has underground parking, so my car can stay warm during the game.
So wait a second. All the driving around I do, looking for parking, minus 40. You're telling me I could be toasty warm in a car after the hockey game?
That's exactly what I'm telling you. Underground parking. Just download the Grid Park app. That's GRYD Park and use the code Illegal Curve. All one word. You'll park for free your first time.
Hi, it's Drew from Illegal Curve here. Selling your home can be stressful, but it wasn't for me. Thanks to my friends at Zappia Group Realty, they made the process so easy. My home sold within 48 hours and with multiple offers. Zappia Group Realty took care of everything with their exquisite customer service and attention to detail. If you want to sell your home for more in less time, get started by talking to Frank and Mauro Zappia of Zappia Group Realty. Online at zappiagroup.com.
For 3 generations and over 80 years, Tough Duck has been making apparel that works and plays as hard as the people who wear it. From jackets to work boots and everything in between, Tough Duck's clothing can handle the harshest environments, even the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. Work to live, live to play. Visit toughduck.com.
To the Illegal Curve post-game show. I am your host, David Minuk, or Dave Minuk, whichever you prefer. I'm fine with either. And I'm joined not in my house, but with my boy, Ezzy Ginsburg. We're doing this show without Drew Mandel, which, as Kenny's water bottle says, makes it a top 5 show already. So that's good to know. And I've got some exciting news. You just finished watching the Illegal Curve commercials, which, of course, we have so much fun making for you all. But you just finished watching it while I was traveling to Vegas, sitting on that plane, thinking, what can I do to make this show better? I thought, hey, I got some time. I'm going to put together the outtakes. And not only did I do the outtakes from the Grid Park commercial from this year, but I also did the outtakes from the Grid Park commercial from last year. So you guys are going to get a chance to watch the Grid Park outtakes on Saturday morning show, Ezzy. Is that what we decided? And we'll do it on Saturday morning. Well, I can't do it now because I haven't uploaded them, but they're on my phone. They're not on the
let's do it Saturday.
We'll do it on Saturday. I've been promising, actually, I promised those like over a month ago, like a lot of things. But the reality is, I promise we will have them. They're cut.
It's the montage that no one's asked for.
Yeah. It's the montage that once I watched by accident and I thought, hey, that's kind of funny. Will anybody else laugh? Well, I laughed as he watched it and chuckled a few times. So hopefully that's enough for everyone.
I still regret not coming for that last commercial because that might be our best commercial. We have a lot of good commercials. Love the Les Rikus commercials, obviously Rolly's transfer commercials, but those Grid Park commercials are hilarious. You and Drew did a good job, but I still regret. I don't know what was going on. Probably I was getting yelled at by Naomi, or my kids were having temper tantrum, something like that. I forget, but
I don't remember actually. I think it was just a late decision by me to kind of let's do this now. So, anyways, no previews though. Kenny, this is called a teaser for a reason. You're gonna have to wait till Saturday, but you'll be joining us. We know Saturday morning at 9:00 sharp. Eddie, we've got Murat joining us from the Athletic.
And the O-Dog.
And we've got the O-Dog, Jeff
a couple
O'Neill.
Weeks ago when we had the 14th anniversary show. The O-Dog couldn't make it, but was texting with him today, and he's going to join us on Saturday morning, unless his truck gets stolen out of his driveway.
Or he finds his stolen truck. Either way, we'll be joined by Murat and Jeff O'Neill. So
the last time I asked him about it, though, he still hadn't recovered his truck. But the thing that he was really upset about was his sticks were in there. His golf clubs were in the truck. So whoever stole O-Dog's truck, if you're watching the show right now, please return it.
Let's hope you're not. But regardless, anyways, we appreciate everyone who is staying up with us. I said Murat. Didn't I say Murat or did I say Murat? I usually say Murat. But Murat. if I said Murat, what did I say? Didn't I say Murat?
I thought you said Murat, but
so did I. But maybe I said Murat. Anyways, I usually say Murat, but anyway, sometimes I made a conscious decision actually. One of the first times I met him because I noticed that people were mispronouncing it. But
it's a very unique name, right? Like I've never met someone with that name before. It's a really cool name too, by the way. But yeah, I think it's commonly mispronounced Murat.
Murat, but it's more Murat. All right. Well, now that we've gone through the pronunciation of his name, how do you prefer your name to be pronounced?
Isra.
Anywho,
you know what's weird? A lot of people, just as a quick aside, because we like to go on tangents on the show. A lot of people will spell my name Erza, and the funniest thing is sometimes I'll email someone with my email signature, like I'm talking about Hockey Manitoba, right? Like I'll email someone and then they'll respond Erza. It's like, but you in my signature, and when you got the email, like when you see the subject line.
Yeah,
it says Ezra. It's just weird. So people misspell my name, but most people know how to. It's a pretty easy name to say.
My favorite mispronunciation of your name by far, though, is Enzi. When people call you Enzi,
Enzi instead of Ezzy. Yeah, I get a lot of Izzy too instead of
Izzy.
Ezzy, which I think is kind of weird because it's Ezra, not Israel, but all good.
Well, anyway, so we've discussed the Jets game. We're not going to need to discuss that. The Jets lose 3-1 to the Columbus Blue Jackets. So they've started off the road trip on less than ideal in a less than ideal manner, Izzy, however you pronounce your name, Enzi, whatever it is at this point. But the point is that the Jets,
Thank you, David.
the Jets drop it 3-1. They pick up their 20th loss of the season, still have 35 wins. So that's pretty good. And just the one overtime loss on the record. And look, you have a day off tomorrow. Then you have back-to-back games against the New Jersey Devils. Oh, sorry. You're off tomorrow. You practice on Saturday. You play the Devils on Sunday, and then you play the Rangers on Monday. So, I mean, they better have a pretty
And then the
damn
Islanders
good,
on Wednesday, right?
and then the Islanders on Wednesday.
Yeah.
They can't. I'm
Like
assuming
Drew's
how they
bachelor party all over again in 2011.
Yeah, exactly. I think what they'll do is they'll most likely take that Tuesday off as well. But the fact is that the Jets are going to have to work on something called the power play. And I know that Rick Bowness has been doing that. They don't have a lot of practices under their belt. But the reality is that they're going to have to work on the power play, maybe some new configurations. Maybe it's time to change some things up because it is stagnant. It is not working. I mean, I don't know what their number is. I think it's like 2 for their last 25, maybe more in terms of the power play right now. So it's
hurting them. There's no doubt. Like tonight is a prime example, right? And another game that stands out was it the Montreal game, Dave, before the All-Star break, right? The Montreal game, I want to say they had 4 or 5 power plays and they went 0-4.
Yeah.
Right? So but not just, a few games here. It's been an issue, going back, to January, really. Prior to that, maybe even before the Christmas break. So, yeah, they have to figure this out. But I think they'll be fine. I know there's a recency bias here with this game going 1 for 7 and, having some issues on the power play. But I think they'll be fine against the Devils. I really do think, these goals are going to start going in for them.
Well, and again, the fact is they're healthy. And just one of the notes that we should mention is that David Gustafsson was skating with the team. We knew he was with the team, but he was skating with them today at, it's an optional morning skate, but he was skating in a non-contact uniform. And of course, that's going to lead to another decision that they're going to have to make. I mean, it's funny, and I'm not knocking Sam Gagner, but was Sam Gagner in the lineup tonight?
He was,
Seriously.
But he did not play that much. I want to go check it right now. I
what
want to say he was around 5 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, it was just
4 minutes and 52 seconds. Not bad.
Yeah.
That was a guess, by the way. And for a guy who only really watched half of this game, because I have 2 young children who terrorize me. That's not surprising. But I mean, look, I'm not in a game in which you had that.
Well, I'm not blaming Sam Gagner. I'm not blaming.
Well, I know
Sam
you're
Gagner.
not. I know you're not. But you're just saying, Carson Kuhlman comes out for Sam Gagner, and Gagner didn't really have an impact. But I do think. A lot of that, as happens to do with the power plays and the penalty kills, right?
Absolutely, for sure.
Because the Jets had 5 penalties or 4 penalties, 5 penalties, right? So you had 12 power plays in this game, and even though Gagner does get some special teams work, he I don't think he got any special teams time tonight, right? So,
right.
I'm just looking now; he did not.
So the point is that you're going to have to make a decision, right? You're going to have to make a decision because you're going to have to send someone down. Based on the fact that you're already at the 23-man roster, and you've got guys who obviously can be sent down, who most likely aren't, even though who would not need waivers.
And there's going to be a debate about that, but
look, I mean,
you can't compare, Sam Gagner with Carson Kuhlman, Saku Manalainen, because they're different players, and I know people like to say they're interchangeable and everything like that,
right.
But we'll see what happens. I like Carson Kuhlman in the lineup. I've said that before, right? Whether it's on the 3rd line or the 4th line, I like what he brings. And I know that, he's not a guy that's going to score a lot of goals, but I just love, he gives you an honest effort, the guy, and he does some of the dirty work. And that's what you want from a 4th line, right? So I'm not saying that, Sam Gagner, for example, doesn't give you a lot, but I don't think it's as easy as just saying, put Carson Kuhlman on waivers. I think he gets claimed, by the way, Dave.
Well, speaking of guys who get claimed or don't get claimed, when you talk about waivers, Ezzy, that leads us into...
Put on your antlers. It's time for the Minuk Moose Minute on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show.
Now, Ezzy, I did a Minuk Moose hour the last time we did one of these shows, so I'm not going to go... I'm going to try and be succinct. I'm not going to go too long, but we do have to talk about the Moose kicking off their 8-game homestand against the Iowa Wild, their division rival. And speaking of waivers, Axel Jonsson-Fjällby, who was put on waivers by the Jets on Tuesday, I believe. He passed through waivers and, of course, went unclaimed. We thought maybe Washington would take him, but they didn't, and because they could, of course, assign him right to Hershey. They didn't. Neither did any of the other NHL teams. So as a result, Axel Jonsson-Fjällby, he draws into the lineup. Jimmy Olney, the captain, he played his first action of the season in Toronto, but he didn't play this game. And it's unusual because the Moose, remember, lost the game on Monday, but because it was a makeup game, it actually counted as a game from a month prior. So it actually doesn't count, is part of this current streak. So the Moose won both their games this weekend in Grand Rapids. In fact, they had an overtime.
Still weird to me that they started a game in the second period, but continue.
I know it's true. And so the point, and believe me, it's not just weird to you. I was talking to the players during, I went to the morning skate. They also said it was very weird. But the fact is, the Moose had an overtime loss to Milwaukee. They had 2 wins against Grand Rapids. So they're coming in on a streak despite this Toronto blip. And then, of course, they started with the Iowa Wild, their division rival, who they had some games in hand on, but were tied with in terms of points. And again, they get a little bump with Axel Jonsson-Fjällby. He was playing on a line with Cole Meyer and Evan Poli. And things looked like they were going to get started well for the Moose. Similar to the Jets, came out flying, had a goal disallowed, Nicholas Jones. It's always funny to me as when a guy gets a goal disallowed for goalie for interference on the goaltender, but doesn't get a penalty because they don't think it's egregious enough. It's like, well, wait a second. If it's enough to disallow it, how is it not enough to call?
It should almost be an automatic penalty, but obviously there's reasons why you can't do that. But I agree with you on that.
Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Regardless, the Moose didn't have they had the lead in shots, they didn't have the lead in goals, and then the Iowa Wild, they did take the lead on a breakaway chance that they gave up. Terrible line change by the Moose. And one of the things in the game that I asked Mark Morrison, the head coach of the Moose, after the game, I said, you got to clean up those breakaways because they probably gave up 4 or 5 breakaways. But the Moose are a resilient bunch if we've seen anything with this club this year. And sure enough, 3 minutes, 3 goals in 3 minutes in the second period gave them a quick 3-1 lead. Christian Reichel over to Jansen Harkins for the first one. Then Ville Heinola, who had a great shift. He made one real nice play, froze a guy, saw Harkins was breaking out of the zone, hit him with a breakaway pass. Jansen Harkins scored an absolute beauty of a goal to make it 2-1 for the Moose. And then the man we just talked about, the Flow himself, Axel Jonsson-Fjällby, he scores his first nice pass by alternate captain Cole Meyer. That made it 3-1. Late in the second, the Wild made it a little closer, scoring to make it 3-2, probably a goal Arvid Holm wants back. But then early in the third period, Leon Gawanke, he scores his 12th on a nice assist from Declan Chisholm. Those two guys play extraordinarily well together. So Gawanke ripped a shot, very similar actually to the Line A goal, not quite as aggressive, but nice rip by Leon Gawanke, the 2017 fifth rounder, from a nice pass from the 2018 fifth rounder. And those two guys have, like I said, extraordinarily good chemistry together. So that gave the Moose a 4-2 lead, and that is how the game ended. So the Moose improved 25-16, 3-2, third win in a row, 3-0-1-0 in their last 4 games, puts them third in the division. And they're, I think, 1 point up on Rockford, 2 points up on Iowa, who they'll play a rematch with tomorrow night in downtown Winnipeg.
Which you should mention is Pride Night.
It's Pride Night tomorrow. Yeah, that's a good point. Yep. And they're
awesome
initiative.
Always awesome.
Yeah, and I think it's benefiting the Rainbow Foundation, if I recall correctly. So a lot of good things that'll be done tomorrow at the game. Sure. You'll be able to, if you look above Ezzy's head right now, I'll be sitting where it says, what does that say? Jets Leafs. So I'll be sitting right above, I think, that the E in Leafs or the S in Jets. I can't remember. Maybe the X. The X marks the Dave spot, which is interesting because for the Jets games, Ezzy, we're on the other side of the press box. But for the Moose games,
it's always weird to be on that other side because that's the side. The side we're on now is the first couple of years we were there, but then we were moved over for like the next, I don't know, 6 or 7 years, 8 years, right?
Yeah,
so it's kind of weird to be back on that side sometimes.
It is weird. It is weird to be on that side, and I do by default tend to go to the far side, even though we now sit on the north end side. So I should probably appreciate that a little bit more. But regardless, so they'll be back in action tomorrow. And what was I going to say about the game? I was going to say something. I lost my train of thought, but I will have to give Mark Morrison, the head coach, some credit with his line. I said to him after the game, I said, what was it like having Drew McIntyre, the goalie coach, on the bench with you instead of Eric Dubois, who, as people know, are up with the Winnipeg Jets, or he was up with the Winnipeg Jets. And he looked at me, smiled, laughed, and said, "I'll take Eric." And unfortunately, we didn't get the
Does anybody call Drew McIntyre the Scottish psychopath?
No, why? Should we?
The wrestler.
Well, I could ask him.
Drew McIntyre, former WWE champion, the Scottish psychopath.
As soon as you say WWE, though, you end my era, right? Like I was more just the.
Oh no, trust me, Dave. That old WWF logo, I'm all about that. But you got to say WWE now because the World Wildlife Fund.
Well, yeah, I know. Otherwise, we'll be sued by the World Wildlife Fund. But anyway,
or Federation, whatever.
Federation actually is what it is. Anywho, so the Moose, I'm thinking about Leafs because it's above your head, but the Moose will be back in action tomorrow night. Then they're back in action Sunday at 6 and Monday at 2, which is insane, by the way. 17 hours between the start of games, let alone when the game ends and when it starts, and the next one begins. But we'll be at all of those games, as in we're going to have tickets to give away for all of these games. Actually, I've got tickets. Sorry, that cue's in my brain. I got tickets to tomorrow's game. I got tickets to Sunday's game. I got tickets to Monday's game. Well, I've given away 2 tickets to Sunday's game, but I've got tickets to tomorrow's game. So if you want to be not with me in the press box, if you want to be in the crowd watching the Moose and the Iowa Wild rematch, send me a message, Dave at Illegal Curve or IC Dave on Twitter, and you can be going to the game. And as we'll be remiss, and then we're going to get into the contest, and then we'll try and wrap this up because we're already over an hour. But we should also mention that the Ice won yesterday. I defeated, I think it was Swift Current 5-3. And because they won, they punched their ticket to the playoffs, which is crazy because, it seems like it's still far away, but I believe that was their 41st win of the season. So kudos to the Winnipeg Ice for being able to punch their ticket to the playoffs. And they actually are heading out. If you didn't get into that game, you won't see them for a while because they're heading out on the road for 10 straight games.
17 days, I think.
Yeah. So they'll be gone for a while, and then they'll come back.
Similar to the beginning of the season, right? When they were on the road for, what was it, 5 weeks, 6 weeks?
Yeah, it was crazy. Anywho, so the point is that the lots doing with all the hockey clubs here in Winnipeg, including the Jets who lost tonight, and the Moose who are streaking, and the Ice who are streaking. So there's Ezzy also, for the record, folks, is streaking. Whew. Okay, let's get into the contest quickly, Ezzy, and then we'll wrap up the show. Number 1, I was able during the commercial break to pick a winner. So congratulations to Ruth Casimir. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Out of BC, you are the winner of the Illegal Curve merch contest. So thank you very much for entering. If you want to enter the contest, just go to any of the links on illegalcurve.com. You can enter, you can see it. We have a link here in the YouTube page that you can follow, and there's so many different ways to enter. You can just do 1 entry. You can do 50 entries. It doesn't make a difference. Obviously, you just give yourself more chances to win. So congratulations to Ruth on her win. And as you're going to like the unique code word, because I just picked something quickly, I went with Whizzle Wazzle.
That's fantastic.
Because I had no idea.
That's the best code so far.
Yeah, I actually had no idea what to pick. I was like, I'm sitting there going, okay, I'm brain dead right now. Like, just think of something. And I was like, Whizzle Wazzle? And so I went with Whizzle Wazzle. Some would even argue I spelled Wazzle wrong, but I'm not going to argue with that.
You wazzled when you should have whizzled.
I did wazzle when I should have whistled, Ezzy, but WIZZLE, WAZZLE, Whizzle Wazzle. That is the unique code word. I could guarantee you, even if I would have selected that, nobody was going to guess that word because that's just straight out of my mad brain. So those are the ways you're going to now enter that for the next contest. Line A is better. That could have been at Mall, but I think have we used that one as? I don't know if we've used that one for a unique code word.
I don't think we have.
Probably not, maybe, but regardless, it's Whizzle Wazzle. That's the beauty of the contest.
Line A, though. I feel it. I feel a lot of Jets fans that haven't gotten over that. But I do think how dominant Pierre-Luc Dubois has been for big chunks of the season, I think that has helped. But as we talked about earlier, we're not going to get into that.
Well, and Ezzy, I'm not going to lie to you. It might be a little bit much for me to try and find the unique code word, although it wasn't that long ago that you picked it. So give me 2 seconds to find it. And
you're talking about the Tough Duck hardest hitting comment? I've got it here in the chat, so I've got it. I can read it if you want, if you can't find it.
Just give me 2 seconds. I just want to, it was from 917. That might be too far. Okay, just read it.
I've got it. We're going to give it to, hopefully Bricktop is still in the chat here, but I was kind of teasing people by saying we're not going to talk about the trade because the comment from Bricktop was in caps lock, who cares about the trade? The Jets have a good lineup, but they are not playing to their potential, period. End of story. I think they played pretty well tonight, and I think they played pretty well against the Kraken. So I'm not as worried. I'm a bit of a, an optimist here, but I think they're going to be fine. I'm not saying that they're going to, sweep the New York-based teams. I guess New Jersey's not New York-based, but they kind of are very close to New York, right? So I'm talking about the New York, New Jersey teams here with the Rangers, Devils, and Islanders. I'm not saying that I'm that confident and cocky that the Jets are going to win all three of these games, but I think they're playing pretty well. And, you got to give Korpisalo a lot of credit, and I think the puck's going to start going in a little bit better. But Bricktop, send me an email, Ezra@illegalcurve.com. You got to send me your mailing information so Tough Duck can ship out a toque to you, or you can, of course, slide into my DMs at ICSEG. But regardless, if you email me or DM me, Tough Duck is going to ship out a toque to you directly. So congrats on winning the Tough Duck hardest hitting comment.
So there you go. We've got our contest handled, Ezzy. We want to, thank everyone for joining us on your Thursday night. I think it is. It's going to be a long week. It's going to be a very long week. Of course, we had the Jets game on Tuesday. I had a Moose game last night. We had a Jets game tonight. I have a Moose game tomorrow. Saturday, Ezzy, we got the Saturday morning show, 9:00. Murat, Atesh, and Jeff O'Neill will be joining us. Then we have Saturday night free. Then Sunday, we have the Moose playing at 6:00, the Jets playing at 6:00. Then Monday, we have the Moose playing at 2:00, and then we have the Jets playing at 6:00.
In my mind, Dave, sorry to cut you off.
Go ahead.
I just saw the Spider-Man gif of like Spider-Man, the two Spider-Men pointing at each other. That's you when there's a Jets and Moose game at 6:00. That's you, the Spider-Man gif.
Well, all I know is, folks, there's a very good chance Sunday night I might be doing the post-game show from the from Canada Life Center, because
from Center Ice.
It's from Center Ice, but I don't know how else I'm going to do it I'm hoping the Jets game starts a little later and the Moose game gets going quickly, so I can still do Moose Media and then come up and do the Jets post-game show. But
you need to clone yourself. I mean, let's be honest here. It's time. Just clone yourself.
It may be time. I might be entering into that realm, but maybe I don't need to clone myself. Regardless, like I said, you'll get a chance to spend all of this weekend, and then Ezzy will have a little break on Tuesday, and then Jets Islanders Wednesday, and then we have a break for like a minute, and then we start up again. Dear Lord,
then it's going to be almost the trade deadline. It's coming up. A couple of weeks.
Exactly. We're gonna have lots to talk about. So remember, folks, we thank you for joining us, for spending your evenings with us, your Saturday mornings with us, coming to the website, illegalcurve.com, and doing all that great stuff. Make sure you smash the like button before you head out for the rest of the night. Make sure, if you can, I'm seeing people, it's funny, I haven't even really been stressing it, but I just went and checked the podcast, and people have been leaving comments on the podcast. That warms my dark heart. If you can, accept my invite, please. Accept my invite, it's not a friendship invite because I don't really use Facebook, but it's a friendship to the Illegal Curve page that helps us if you can follow that and then share our stuff on Facebook. And that, of course, gets the word of Illegal Curve out, helps spread the word of Illegal Curve. Now, Ezzy, we're going long when Frosty Winnipeg already posted the shout out to our sponsors. And I mean, that was like, look at it. That was already 4 minutes ago. Fine. It was 1 minute ago, but it was a while ago. So I'm going to put that up there, and I'm going to give a shout out to our sponsors, because without them, we don't have a show. So a big thank you to all the sponsors of Illegal Curve who make the post-game show, the Saturday show, and the website a possibility. They are Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club, Linden Market Dental Center, Zappia Group Realty, Betway, Tough Duck, Boston Pizza.
Went there for dinner tonight with the family, by the way.
We'll get into that in a second. That sounds like we got another 10 minutes of the show. Rolly's Transfer, Grid Park. Support these fine businesses because of their continued. Oh, hold on.
And the keg.
I didn't say the keg.
Nope.
Didn't say the keg. And the keg. Support these fine businesses because of their continued support of Illegal Curve.
I will see you tonight, though, Dave. But went to Boston Pizza. Had what I get all the time, pierogi pizza. Yeah. It's my favorite.
Okay.
And it was good. The kids actually didn't make that much of a mess. They're getting better. They're growing up.
All right.
Fine. It was a fine evening at Boston Pizza.
Ezzy,
we watched the first 5 minutes of the Jets game.
Ezzy, it's not too long before you're the one who's making the mess and the kids are the one who are cleaning up after you.
It's true.
Well, we thank you very much for joining us on this Thursday evening. This has been the Illegal Curve post-game show. I am Dave Manouk. He is Ezra Ginsburg, and we hope you enjoyed our broadcast, and we'll talk to you very soon.
Thanks for listening to this broadcast from Illegal Curve Hockey. For more great Illegal Curve content, subscribe to the Illegal Curve YouTube channel, Follow at Illegal Curve on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and visit your online home for hockey in Winnipeg, illegalcurve.com.